Welcome to Creators Blueprint.
Welcome back to Creators Blueprint, where we talk about unnecessary stuff at the side. I'm Dennis, joined by Oscar, Lima, Design, and Robbie, aka Foul Matter.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
We just recorded a whole 15 minutes about the conversation we're about to talk to right now. And then we just realized that we weren't recording at all. So
yeah, let's just get right into it.
Let's get right into it, yeah.
Okay, do you guys want to go, like, how was your week, or just want to skip over that?
My week was pretty good.
Our week was pretty good, and that's about it.
Okay, let's
Yeah,
go.
pretty much. Let's get right to the topics. Yep, let's get it.
So the first topic we were talking about was the iPhone, the new iPhone. It's just been unveiled. It has 3 cameras. How do you guys feel about it?
I am, like I said before, the way I feel about it is that all I see is that they changed the camera. They added the camera to make it even better than what it was. And for the most part, design-wise, it looks the same. That's it. They've been very stagnant with how they're going about their iPhone design or whatever. No innovation, no evolution for it. Yeah, I'm not that happy with it, but I don't really care. Well, how about you, Rob?
Well, I think if they're going in the direction of adding, it was like a fisheye lens type camera, a wide angle lens, and then a standard camera. I think the next logical step would be to implement RAW format shooting, right? Because I think the standard shooting, you're gonna be doing JPEGs. So I would think that they would like to implement RAW footage if they want to like be taken seriously as like a camera or have serious professional camera capabilities. You got to be able to shoot RAW. And also another thing that I've noticed that has been pretty limited in terms of iPhone cameras in the past is, you can't really control the shutter speed all that well. You can't control like things like ISO. You can't really control aperture.
And what's the difference between RAW and a JPEG?
Okay, well, so RAWs are they're not as compressed as JPEGs. So JPEGs are just by natural, they're just compressed. That is the nature of JPEGs. And then RAWs allow you to get more of a color range because it's not compressed. So what the JPEG is doing, it's compressing the color range in order to make it a smaller file. The RAWs are typically like 30 megs per photo is normal for RAWs. So they're gonna be a lot bigger files, but you're gonna get more colors. You're gonna get richer things like richer black tones. Very subtle differences are gonna be more noticeable. And you'll be able to appreciate the quality of the photo more once you've compared it to a JPEG. You'll start to see the difference. The problem with that would be, though, like, obviously iPhones don't have infinite storage, or usually they come with, like, 30 gigs, 64 gigs. So if you're taking a lot of RAWs, then you're going to eat through your phone storage.
Wait, I just want to go against that, because I recently, don't lose your train of thought, but I recently heard of the iCloud and how that shit works. You know how it's a cloud that you pay for.
Exactly. So yeah.
So they have like for $1 a month, you could save 50 gigs into the cloud. For $3 a month, you could save 200 gigs. And for $10 a month, you have a 2 terabyte storage.
So yes,
that would help in that.
So if you're
That's
gonna be
not bad
shooting
at all.
RAWs, then you're gonna need that kind of storage. It's gonna depend on how many photos you're taking, and you'll be able to kind of gauge how much storage space you actually need. If you're going to be taking a lot of photos, you might honestly have to go up to 2 terabytes. Honestly,
Yeah.
I have 2 terabytes right now on my Google Drive, which I basically use like an iCloud. My Google Drive, I have 2 terabytes, and I pay like $10 a month, I think, for that. So
That's cheap for 2 terabytes.
yeah,
honestly.
it's very cheap. I have already to kind of put it into perspective. I take a lot of photos, and I think I have like 300 gigs used up so far. 300 gigabytes so far of those 2 terabytes.
That's crazy.
So that kind of gives you an idea. But if you're not going to be taking those many photos, well, then you can go for a smaller package. But yeah, so
and
that's...
I feel like, knowing Apple, not anytime soon we're going to get those features or settings to adjust into the iPhone.
Well, see, the thing is,
Anytime
there are third-party apps available that will allow you to like shoot RAW or adjust
Really?
shutter speeds and things like that. So you can get it through other apps. But see, that's the thing. Then you have to download, more apps, and you have to enter that app every time you want to take a specific kind of photo. So to me, it would just seem logical that Apple would want to implement those by default in their system. So I don't know if they're planning to do that, but. These new types of cameras are great, but yeah, they should probably implement these other features, which are like default on regular cameras. So, but another thing is though, if the asking price for the Max is how much again? Pro Max,
Well, the
Max Pro.
not the MacBook, the tower itself, it's like $1,000 or $2,000. The stand is $1,000 for the new the grilled cheese looking tower, the MacBook, the Mac.
You're talking about the iPhone though.
I'm talking about.
Are you
the
talking
iPhone.
about the?
Yeah, yeah.
I thought you were
yeah.
talking about the MacBook.
No, I meant the.
This guy.
Yeah, I meant the new iPhone 11, the different options. There's like the Max Pro.
Yeah,
There's the
but
standard.
I feel like it's definitely not worth buying the new iPhone.
Yeah, because see, the thing is, if you're buying it for the new camera, then you might as well just buy a DSLR. You can find a good quality
for
entry
like
level
$600
for and that's you can just watch a few tutorials and you can just kind of start learning hands on how to use it. It's really not that hard.
And then like go on Instagram and make sure your bio says photographer, and you're basically
Yeah, there you go, and just
right?
throw on a couple filters and call it a day. To be honest, but I'm not even all too
and
concerned about that. I mean,
And how do you feel about the megapixels staying the same at 12, and not they haven't upgraded since I don't know, the 4 to 5.
I don't understand why they haven't done that. I mean, I don't know. Is it like
Do
just?
they need to? Are people that going?
Well, see,
crazy
that's the
over
thing.
it?
I mean, I guess it really depends on what your level of seriousness is. Most people who just take photos casually probably don't even notice, or they don't, it's not like a big thing for them. But, if you want to take the highest quality photos possible, then maybe, I don't know, you might.
But then again, what like these cameras are for people that use Instagram and all that, and Instagram automatically compresses your photo.
Yeah, see, that's
so
the thing.
there's
Yeah,
no point.
Yeah, actually, that's a good argument. But usually, these people will have their own websites where you can view the full uncompressed versions of their photos on anyways, and they'll like link it in their bio on Instagram or something. So they have the high quality versions anyways available on their website.
Yeah.
And Instagram is more just kind of like a preview for those images, or just like a space to put them all, to reach a larger audience. So I think that definitely, even though Instagram compresses it, having them still available on your own personal website is fine. You can discover those types of people on Instagram. It's a good discovery platform.
But like for these iPhones to be worth this much, for iPhone 11 700, the Pro 1000, and the Pro Max 1100, it's definitely not worth to buy.
Because see,
all.
the thing is, yeah, and a lot of the time what you're doing on your iPhone is you're using apps, right? And those apps, they update independent of the iPhone. So a lot of the time, it doesn't really matter what iPhone you're using, because the app is basically the user experience is going to be the same regardless of what iPhone you're on. So that's another thing, majority of what you do on your phone, unless it's something, restricted to the specific iPhone itself, like the camera, for example, or whatever, but most apps are just going to run the same. So,
Yeah.
you're paying $1,100 to use the app in the same exact way that you would on a previous version.
So like, I like tuned into the keynote about the iPhone, and one thing that he did, one of the guys that was talking about the iPhone's camera, what he said is that the phone, when you're taking pictures, it takes like 6 images or 7 images. So like when you're about to take an image, it'll take like 3 pictures, and then after that, it'll take the picture that you capture, and after that, it'll take 2 additional photos or some shit like that. But at the end of this is what 6 pictures come together to make like 1 image. And so that should make the image even better or whatever. Then after that, he also said that for videography, like you're gonna be able to like film with it, and you're gonna be able to fully edit it on your iPhone. So like, they're adding all this stuff, like you said, but like, what's the point of all this stuff when you can literally use something that's dedicated to it than something that's just an add-on to your phone, you know?
And also another thing in terms of like recording videos. I mean, unless you have a tripod specifically designed for an iPhone or like a selfie stick, something to stabilize the camera while you're recording. You know, you're still gonna get shaky film. You know, you're still gonna get shaky hands and stuff like that, moving around and vibration. So that's obviously not gonna change because you know, your hand is your hand. So unless you have specific equipment dedicated to stabilizing that motion, you know, it's still, no matter how high the quality of the video itself is, you know, you're still gonna have to deal with those things anyways, you know. So it's something. If you want to record videos seriously like that, then you would have to look into additional equipment to help you get there, right? So at that point, it almost just makes sense to get your own camera, you know, that you can, you know, learn how to use and take videos with. You know, you could always take longer photo videos on a normal camera anyway. So
In conclusion,
it's definitely not worth buying the new iPhone 11.
yeah.
I'm not telling you that you shouldn't, but it's definitely not recommended by Creators Blueprint. Just buy your own DSLR camera,
And then buy an iPhone 8 or 9.
or just keep your iPhone, because
keep
it's
the
literally
current
the
one you
same
have,
thing.
yeah, because
Throughout
like
all
for
the
example,
years.
what I do, you know, if I don't have my camera and I'm walking somewhere and I see something that I want to take a shot of with my camera, I'll use my iPhone to take a shot of it, almost like a note to self for later, like a mental note to come back to this place with my camera. So, you know, iPhone cameras, obviously it still has its uses, and you know, you could still shoot and get nice photos with an iPhone camera, no problem, you know, but you might be a little bit limited in terms of your editing capabilities, but you know, it is what it is. So
Anyways, yeah, that's that.
And do you know what season? Okay, moving away from the iPhone, do you know what season it is?
No, I don't.
Robbie, do you know what season it is?
it's football season.
No, it's back to school season.
Well, that too.
That too.
So yeah, are you guys excited for the kids to go back to school?
Feels weird not being in school and seeing like people go back to school. It reminds me that I'm not a student anymore.
You know what grinds
or a
my
kid.
gears?
What?
The traffic in the morning.
Oh yeah, you have to deal with that. A lot of students on
It's true,
the
that's probably
highway.
What it is on the highway now.
What schools are they going to? Like, what schools are on your way to work? Like Montclair?
Oh no, it's all the elementary schools.
Oh.
I
yeah.
work in the same town as I live in, so
Okay.
like for the summers,
Oh,
I
yeah,
I just took like a road down. And it was just an empty road. Now like it's filled with cars and kids walking everywhere.
Okay.
So yeah, my commute went from 12 minutes to 20 minutes.
Wow.
It was
Tough.
It went from what to what?
12 minutes to 20 minutes.
That's crazy.
Fuck, that's
Like, you don't understand. You don't understand though.
I
the
do
stress
not understand.
I'd be getting. It's
definitely don't.
crazy. But how about you guys? How's school affecting you in traffic?
Honestly, I think it's been the same in traffic. I mean, traffic has always, lately has been getting worse and worse, but that could be because of school. But I don't think it's affecting me that much. How about you?
Yeah, I haven't really noticed any drastic changes, but that's because half the time I'm like asleep for the bus ride anyway, so it's not really something that I notice.
What time do you wake up to get to work?
So I can wake up anytime between 5:30 and 6:50, and I've
Jeez.
made it to work at a decent time when I've woken up at any point. And they're like, if I wake up at 5:30 and I catch the 6:15 bus, I can be at the Port Authority by 7. If I wake up at 6:50, catch the 7:08 bus, I can be at work by like 8:20, 8:30, which is, you know,
Sometime.
So he lives in New Jersey,
yes, I live
and
in
he
Hackensack.
commutes to Manhattan.
Take the bus to Port Authority.
every night. I mean every morning.
Every morning, yep. Come home. So
Damn, that's more than a 20-minute commute. But what topics do we have on back to school?
So we have. Okay, what should have you done in the summer? I don't know if I worded that right, but like, yeah, like what should have you been doing in the summer in preparation to coming back to school, design school?
maybe internships are always a nice thing, and you get a little bit of a real world experience for a month or two. I don't know how useful that experience will be while you're still in school, because usually what you're doing at an internship or a job in the summer for design is like more practical stuff, and then or more real world stuff, and then once you go back to school, it gets conceptual and abstract again. So but
I feel like it would affect me. Like, let's say you get an internship in the summer, and you see what real life is. You come back to school and you'll have you'll be in the mindset like, damn, I don't need this shit. Like I could work on my portfolio and try to get another internship instead of being conceptual.
that's a good point. Yeah, I think that does happen.
That would definitely happen to me.
Because especially in architecture for sure, because the differences are just so significant, when it comes to working at a firm or that has, well, there are some conceptual firms, but at the end of the day you still need to make money, and most of the money is found in like more real world projects, right, that have much more limitations compared to school. I mean, in school, you do whatever the hell you want. You don't have to worry about like structure that much, or like you don't have to worry about laws or restrictions. You just design. Design.
Yeah.
So I think that's also like kind of looking back. Once you enter the real world, and you embark on your career, you're probably going to be limited, at least for the first few years, I would say, while you're, kind of beginning out, you're going to be restricted to like more real world situations.
But
yeah.
I think it's good to be conceptual in the beginning of the school year, maybe
Yeah,
sophomore year,
yeah.
and then junior year you have to start developing your
Yeah.
portfolio,
I mean, yeah,
your
the
need,
technical
and
aspects.
look into internships, and that's when you could start to slack off.
I think it's important. Yeah, it is important to, I would say, just enjoy the time that you have in school to be as conceptual and free without limitations as much as possible. Like, enjoy that time and really just do whatever you want. I mean, because you have a whole bunch of time coming up to worry about like restrictions and rules and laws. In school, just go crazy, like with your designs. I mean, obviously within reason, but don't worry because a lot of the time the professors aren't even worried about either. They're not going to tell you that you can't do something because, it might not necessarily work in a real world setting. A lot of professors are more conceptual anyways. Or at least this has been my experience in architecture
Like in
school.
our experience, you could become conceptual with the idea.
They want to see ideas, concepts, Yeah.
Well, like what it does, it could be conceptual, but like when it comes to like for the industrial design medium, you had to be realistic on how the product was built.
Right, that is a good point. So in architecture, it's a little different. Yeah.
You had to know how the mold would be shaped,
Yeah.
and you can't have any undercuts and all that good stuff. But other than that, you could be conceptual with like what it's supposed to do, or
with an understanding of how it should work,
or how it implements into society. Like you could go crazy with that. But if you have an internship and you go back to school, that would kind of affect you. Like you when it happened to me, when I had an internship and I went back to school, I worried more about like my portfolio, if it looks good, other than like conceptualizing new projects.
Yeah.
So my focus just shifted.
Is also important.
Yeah, and that happened around junior year. Junior year happened.
Yeah.
So for the kids going back to school, worry more about, I don't know, if you're a freshman. Freshman,
it depends
sophomore,
on what level you are.
Yeah, freshman, sophomore, junior. Worry more about being conceptualized, exploring your medium, being more conceptual, all that good stuff. When you're a junior, sophomore, or junior, senior, and super senior, worry about building your portfolio, getting into internships, and also have fun in school.
I would also say if you have the means, traveling wouldn't be a bad idea either, to kind of give yourself like a mental reset, or just kind of see, because that might help you out with, I don't know, some kind of, like, for example, going to different countries or different locations might kind of influence you a certain way, or you might take away some things from those trips that might be valuable later on. So maybe like the way that they do things with architecture over there, or the way that they use products over there, or what kind of products they have.
That's very unlikely because college kids are mostly broke.
I mean, it depends on your background, but if you have the means, then go for it for sure. Obviously not everybody will be able to.
One thing that I like that I realized when I was like in summer break and then going back to school is that like for me one summer like I didn't practice sketching at all in the summer, and then when it came back to going to school, like that's where I like struggled. And so like one thing that I kept in mind when I was going on summer break was to always like try to sketch every other day or something like that, because once you get back to school and you have to do it like on a like consistent basis, and you're like kind of out of touch with it, and then you gotta like
you get a little rusty, you know.
You get rusty, and then you come back, and so it takes you time to get to where you were before.
Exactly.
So like that for me was one big thing.
I remember one time, I don't know what year it was, but you came back and you were like the best sketcher in the class. That was a crazy start of the year.
That's a whole different topic, but
I mean, it's good to
practicing.
like practice and not just practice to maintain where you are, but like to improve and get better, and maybe learn certain things that you can apply in the school year.
Practice makes practice makes perfect.
Yes.
Hard work beats
perfect.
Hard work beats talent if talent doesn't work.
Exactly. So that's on that. Anything else? Because I like your points about internships, and I like your point about vacations, because I never thought about it like that, where you can go to different, like, let's go to Europe and see how they go about doing their architecture, or go about seeing how they do their products, footwear, or anything. Like, that's a good mindset to have. But like he said, college students and like sometimes
if you see, the thing is, it's I mean, like, for example, I certainly couldn't have afforded to do that, but I think being in New York City allowed me to see a lot of international people, so I was still able to kind of see a glimpse into like how they dress and how they interact with New York City.
Bless you again.
Yeah, thank you. But so it also depends on where you are. So if you have an internship, and you're doing that, but also taking a little bit of time to maybe do some stuff on the side, like sketching for yourself to get better, tutorial stuff like that.
Like learning new stuff,
New techniques.
Like, for example, I remember, I don't know if this was in the summer, but back in our school we had Keisha. I think we talked about that a little bit, but then like it was sometime where I went to Robert's school, and he went to Pratt, so he did architecture and he used Rhino, and I'm not sure what rendering software he used there at the time, but I introduced
I didn't use the rendering software.
Okay.
Keyshot was really nice. I appreciated it because it was very easy to kind of just get into and learn as you go along, and it's fast. It's fast.
But like, also, it's not something that you were, I guess you weren't seeing it at school, whatever. But with you, like, I guess like interacting with other designers, you get to learn new things. So
absolutely,
then I introduced it to you,
exactly.
And then
exactly.
I'm sure like you said like other people started using it.
I saw I talked to my friend that in my classmate about it, and he was pretty interested in it, and I also another classmate of mine used it to do product renders. So he wasn't using it for a building render. He was taking a class where he had to design a watch, actually, I think it was. So he used it to render a watch, which is usually what is mostly used for, like, products, right?
Yeah.
I kind of took it and blew up the scale a little bit and used it for like entire buildings, but I loved it. I mean, a lot of my renders turned out pretty well because what I was able to do was when it came to like finals, I would set the scene up in Rhino, and I would put everything on its correct layer and just set the whole thing up in Rhino, prepare the view, everything, all the modeling, the 3D modeling. I would import it into Keyshot, and then I would start assigning the textures. And I like it because you can scale everything. You can apply different textures in real time, and and I just found all the textures through like Google image searches or websites that have like JPEGs or stuff of these textures that are seamless, so they don't look like they're repeating. They just look nice and smooth. And then I would just let it render for like 10 hours while I'm going back to working in Illustrator or InDesign or Rhino or whatever. So I was able to multitask. I do not know how my computer survived, because I would have like the Keyshot running in the background. I would have like 2 instances of Rhino open, 4 instances of like InDesign, Illustrator, Photoshop.
Holy
My
shit.
computer, I put my computer through some crazy stuff, and it's still going. So yeah, that's good. Yeah, so Keyshot was a great thing to have. I remember getting like good comments about some of my renders. Some classmates were asking me how I did some of my renders, and I told them which program I'm using, and they were like, "Oh, I don't know that program. What is that?" And
Yeah.
that kind of shows you. Yeah. So thank you very much, Oscar.
Yeah, but like so like moral of that is like to always try to be out there and learn.
Yeah,
and stuff
exactly.
like
Because
that.
and I think what's also really interesting is when you get into contact with other designers that are in different areas, and you take something that they're using and you use it in a different way, and that could lead to some exciting things, right? Because you're using it in a different way to do different things, and it can be pretty interesting, the results that come out of that. So
Yeah. So, like for the viewers that are listening and going back to school and you're a freshman, you don't know about what Rhino and Keyshot is. We talked about it on previous episodes, but like the gist of this is, Rhino is a CAD modeling program, a 3D modeling program. Like SolidWorks is also a 3D modeling program, and Keyshot is a rendering program. Difference between both of them is a Keyshot, you actually don't build the product, as in Rhino you do build a product, and in Keyshot you just make the product look realistic and you put textures and
Right.
and
Right.
play with the environment with
so
it.
the typical workflow will be 3D modeling in SolidWorks or Rhino or some other related program. There's a bunch. Import it into Keyshot, which is your render engine. All right. So you get, you kind of but it's not. You could probably use that as a final image, but if you want to further refine it, then you got to ship it into Photoshop, and then you can add
Yeah.
additional things
Like,
to it. Right.
You can add like highlights
You can
and
add
shadows
highlights.
into
You can add people. You can add trees, cars,
yeah.
if that's what you need in your render.
Animals.
Because I don't know how, because for example, product renders, usually you want to go for like kind of like a showcase style render, right? When it's kind of in a perfect environment.
If you're
Yeah.
doing a watch on Keyshot, you would probably bring that. You set the view on Keyshot, render that, then you would put it into Photoshop, and you could Photoshop that watch into a wrist or anything like that, and then you could make it look realistic and play with it as it's inside the picture and make it look more
Right.
realistic as it is.
And the craziest thing about it is that these Keyshot, some of these banners that you see like on the highway or something like that, that showcase a watch, some of them are actually just 3D
Actually,
models.
a lot of them.
Yeah. Yeah. So
The more you do Keyshot, the more you start to realize that a lot of these advertisements that showcase products are actually from Keyshot
Yep.
itself.
Yeah.
Like you get to get an eye of it to see what's realistic and what's not as realistic.
Right.
Um,
I mean, the intent is always, not necessarily, but usually the intent is to make it look as realistic as possible, especially for like products. Architecture is a little different. It depends on what you're going for. You might not want to make it realistic. You might want to make it look more abstract or whatever, but it depends on the situation. But yeah, bringing it into Photoshop. And okay, so going from like modeling to rendering to post editing, that is a process that can take hours, like a whole day usually, maybe even more than a day.
Yeah,
So
to model a product, it depends by the program.
yeah, exactly.
If you do SolidWorks, that's more of an engineering based program where you work by layers on this command tree.
Right.
And as you go down through the layers, you work on a specific part of the project, and you only worked in planes, so everything is like more geometric. As in Rhino,
Right, more
you,
precise.
You work more conceptually. You do
Rhino is
much
definitely
fluid
more
surfaces.
freehand. Yeah,
Yeah.
It's like, think of it as like a 3D sketching tool. Like you can, yeah.
You create a bounding box around an object. You can pull and push and
Yeah.
create organic shapes. But yeah, a product usually takes I don't know, like 6 hours to build.
I would also say
me.
that when it comes, for example, Rhino versus SolidWorks, I think Rhino would be better when you're kind of still in the schematic design where you're trying to figure out what it is, like, and you're kind of sketching out, producing these, like, kind of 3D sketch models. And once you get a pretty good idea of what you want the product to be, you can flesh it out, I guess, like, for example, in SolidWorks. I haven't used SolidWorks too much, but from the times that I messed around with it, it looks super, super, like, technical, like everything gets like really built out, and the specific parts and stuff of how something works are in there.
If you want to make exploded views, which are views of the product where every component inside the object is just taken out, and you just put a nice perspective and make it seem like you could like showcase everything from the inside. That's more likely to be done in SolidWorks, because in Rhino it's only the outside of the product instead of working about the inside.
Yeah.
And in SolidWorks, you have the tree where each product is in. I mean, each component is in a layer, and it's much easier to build in SolidWorks, engineer it in SolidWorks than it is in Rhino. So,
right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But overall, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can also, you can kind of go back and forth in between Rhino and SolidWorks, but once you get to that specific level,
I personally feel like Rhino is much better because
it's more flexible. I think
much more flexible.
It's more loose. It's more fluid. Yeah.
All right, boys.
But SolidWorks is gonna be way more precise in my opinion, because you're gonna have like a actually functioning
Which
product.
one do architects use?
Rhino. Usually, Rhino, AutoCAD, but Rhino or Revit. There's other programs like Revit. I feel like Revit is like architecture's version of SolidWorks, because everything has its own kind of information built into it, like a wall. You have the studs, the bricks, and whatever, and that is part of the assembly. And that once you build out the model in Revit, and it automatically generates drawings of different views.
Oh.
So when you update the model, it updates the drawings at the same time. Rhino, everything is manual, and so if you have a good idea of what the building is, and working in Revit, all the information is already plugged into it. It's called Building Information Modeling, BIM. It's a very good, it has a whole catalog of building materials in it.
Why would you build in Rhino, since it's just like much more
so
flexible?
Rhino is useful in more conceptual and abstract settings, like, for example, school or certain firms that are more abstract, because you're not necessarily, when you're designing that way, you're not necessarily worried about what the wall is. Like, is it a stud wall with brick, or is it like concrete, or what is it? Like, you're not really worried about it. And Rhino lets you just make a gray, a wall, a 3D wall, and you're not worried about the material as right now. You're not worried about how it's actually constructed.
You just work on the overall shape instead of like
exactly. You flesh out the
specifics.
form, and you flesh out the way it's supposed to look, where everything goes. But you're not worried about the specifics, because
And I imagine, since you're just working of the overall shape, you don't have to worry about where the windows go or anything like that, right? It's just the overall shape.
you could plug in openings for the windows and stuff, but you wouldn't worry about how the window gets assembled, like the type of glass, the jambs, the headers, the windowsill, like all the components of the window itself. You're usually not going to model that out in Rhino. And if you want to model that in Revit, well, Revit comes with like window libraries, and you can choose different types of windows, and you can just put them into your wall, and the opening will be automatically created and everything. So it's helpful. You can choose different types of windows.
I just imagine, and you obviously work scaled down in Rhino, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, Rhino is good because you can work at different scales. You can use it for an entire building. You can use it for a product. You can use it for a part of a building. So you can work in different scales. Yeah.
All right. Can we move on from this Rhino talk?
So in
Nah.
I'm playing.
All right, next topic, we're talking about balancing school and your life, and when you're in college and stuff like that.
Oh, that's a
how
fun
did
You
topic.
have no life when you're in college.
Life is college,
All right, so
especially if you're a design major.
we'll go through everyone's perspective. Like, from your perspective, how were you able to do that, like in school, like balancing that?
I think for me, or I think for most of us, you kind of just have to realize that, it's good to be able to separate life and design, but you have to also realize that they're gonna kind of become integrated in a lot of ways. I mean, especially while you're in school, because your schedule is a little bit more erratic. Like you're not gonna have class at the same time every single day. So once you figure out your class schedule, you'll have to figure out your work schedule. When to work on what project for how long, and that just comes with trial and error, and you'll figure it out. How to maximize the weekends that you have, to work on projects and stuff. How to maybe maintain some semblance of a life, even though you have all these classes going on. Can you allow yourself time to enjoy yourself, maybe on a Friday or Saturday or whatever.
Thirsty Thursday.
After class, yeah, maybe if you want to do that. I mean, yeah, it's possible, but once you figure out how you work, some people, they'll work in the middle of the night. They'll come in and they'll work in the middle of the night. Some people work in the day and then go home for the night. So it depends.
So for you, like I said, we're trying to go through each one. Like, how are you? How was your balance of that? Were you able to live your life?
I would say I was able to.
Or was it just design?
Well, see, I think I was able to find time to do things that would allow me to kind of have a little bit of an escape from the studio. For example, I would go out at night a lot, explore, walk around, and take photos, and that's eventually how I started getting into photography. So I would take that time to kind of reset myself and kind of refresh. And then the next day when I go back into the studio, I'm able to start working again and be productive again. So I think it's important to allow yourself to have time to do that. It's almost like you have to force yourself to leave the studio at a certain point just so that you can give yourself a break and then come back feeling refreshed. So it's important to be able to give yourself that time, because you might find another activity that you're passionate about, and that activity, for example, like taking photos for me, will actually help you in design. So it's kind of like one helps the other, and even though you're taking a break from studio, you're still doing something that can potentially help you.
How about you, Oscar?
For me, in school, I would definitely. There was times like us together, because I went to school with Dennis here. We'd have to put in our time in the studio and then stay late hours. Sometimes very, very late, to the point to where you're going home at 1, 2 a.m. in the morning. But obviously, there has to be time where you want to escape, and let's say we would go to the rec center, we'll play some ping pong, we'll even work out, we'll play basketball and stuff like that.
Yeah, that helps a lot, physical activity.
Or even
really nice.
When we'd try to go out and let's say go to some parties, and obviously the next day you have to come in and work on your design stuff. But having that, being in school, and then just it shouldn't be 100% only work. It should be some type of balance where you actually can go back and say, oh, college was pretty fun and stuff like that, and it wasn't just stressful the whole way through it. So for me, I tried to balance it as best as I could. I think I did fairly well, and stuff like that.
Didn't you feel like once you got into college, the upperclassmen put that mindset that you have to do design 24/7, and you barely saw them leave? But I feel like our class took the liberty to actually leave the studio and actually go to parties and all that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the difference was just the director at the time. They were very, I don't know how, but they would basically scold you. Is that the right word? I don't know. They would be wow, you're not in the studio, so that means
You're
not
gonna
in
fail.
the studio equals you're gonna fail or you're a bad designer. So that type of mindset to have is very bad. For us, that's kind of what the upperclassmen were doing. They'd obviously we'd come and they'll be there. Would leave, they'll be there, and
then they would have some slick comments saying, "Oh, you're leaving this early," and it's 1 a.m.
Yeah, it's it's 2 a.m. You're leaving right now. We're about to just check in for our next shift. No, I mean that shouldn't be the type of mindset to have. So I guess that is implemented into your head early when you're in design school, depending where you are and stuff.
Yeah, cause you see there was various designers that were in frats and all that, and you saw them enjoying life and all that, but also doing the work, and they were on the classes, not upperclassmen, the lowerclassmen, they were actually doing that, and I'm like, and I kind of got jealous that like I wish I should have taken that route, like party and do all the do the college stuff, other than just
Typical
straight
college
working
experience.
in my freshman sophomore year.
Yeah, that's true. It was just straight for us, straight work, 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 work. Not many partying and stuff like that. We went maybe to a few, but it wasn't all the time because yeah, I know, but it wasn't all the time because, I don't know. I guess it was just. But honestly, design school is pretty tough to even try to even balance it, even if you could, because if you want to party, let's say, and you have some big project coming up, you're gonna have to do an all-nighter.
Yeah.
So like it's like, you want to sleep or do you want to do the all-nighter? Like, you have to try to balance that out. But how just continue on how your experience was with that.
Yeah, it was basically like Oscars, like freshman and sophomore year. Since we were getting scolded by the upperclassmen, we felt some type of way leaving like around midnight or some shit, because they always be like, "Oh, you guys are leaving," and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm leaving. I need to go to sleep. Like,
Right,
let me.
yeah.
I want to be free."
Yeah.
But as the years went by, it kind of got watered down, and we were the upperclassmen by then, and like people were like not staying into the studio as much. But I feel like the work was getting better, like the modeling from the lowerclassmen so much better than the upperclassmen where we were there.
Sorry, but like I think that having the time to rest and like you were saying, like reset is very important in design, because when you try to overwork yourself, your product is not always going to be like top notch. If you're well rested, coming with a free mind and open mind and all that stuff, then sometimes your end product is going to be way better than if you like stayed 8 hours consistently working on it. Yeah, that's about it.
But yeah, it was pretty tough at first, but junior year I feel like we loosened up a lot, since we only had classes like Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday.
Yeah.
We had like a 4-day weekend. We just we worked and took a lot of liberty to go to like parties, or we went to the gym, played ping pong, and not only focus on design.
Yeah, I mean, I hear some like design student stories where like they're like, oh, like college was cool and everything, but I never partied and I never got to go out because I was just work, 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 and like it kind of sucks at a point, but like you don't. I think when you're in design school, like try to be as best as possible with your scheduling of like how much time you need for how much like the work you have, but like definitely try to have a good time as well, because
you don't want to
paying-
waste it.
Yeah, you're paying like money for it and everything, and you have to get your education out of it, but you also have to like be able to remember it as like a good time of like not just stressful times with your work and all-nighters and stuff like that.
And then you're gonna regret it when you see like these business people that just are in frats and they're just partying, and they won't be making more money than you.
Yeah.
For sure. And you're just gonna look back and you're gonna be like, damn, I really worked that much in college just for them to be making more money than me.
Yeah.
In the corporate world.
What it also depends on just kind of.
Connections.
Well, I mean, it's also diversifying your income, right? I mean, you can take on additional things or enter into business ventures, and if you know the right people, that you can trust and what they're about,
And
don't feel like you can't risk it,
And that branches off to another topic where it depends on who you know and not what you know at the end of the day.
That's also a good point. Yeah,
And
I think that it's true to some degree, yeah.
And most of these people that go to parties, join frats, they join a circle where they get all these connections, and they find jobs through their frats or partying and all that, which is pretty important at the end of the day, because most of these corporate companies have like, how do you say it? They have, I lost my words. But at the end of the day,
They have connections.
Yeah, they have connections. They have priorities on people. Like if they were in the same frat house or they're brothers or something, they'll take initiative to the person that was actually at the Greek house and the person that wasn't.
But in one point that I have to say of that, like I remember when I was about to join a fraternity with my friend, and they were telling us how they had connections and all this stuff. But like in reality, design students are not really in fraternities, and so like the connections you would have got out of that is you probably wouldn't have got any. That's what I think on it.
Yeah, so like like if you're in a fraternity, there's gonna be a priority on the people that were in that fraternity and the people that weren't. And for us designers, just being stuck in the studio all the time, you would make connections, but at the end of the day, I think it's gonna be better if you just go out there and just meet people. Don't mind the sound in the background because they started mowing the lawn. But we're still going, and we're gonna get into the posts that we did on Instagram, our Creators Blueprint Instagram.
Yeah, sorry about that. Routine maintenance work happening outside.
Outside of Creators Blueprint Studio.
All right, so the first post is by Stephanie Piotrowski. It's a toothbrush. Just go into Creators Blueprint where you could view the project. The reason I picked this toothbrush, it's she took human factors into consideration. A lot of the posts that I'm posting happen to have a lot of interaction with the user. So yeah, it's something that I've been looking forward to lately when I do these posts. So yeah, you could see her sketching like how the hand would fit onto the toothbrush and how she worked around that design, and she also put the technology where it'd be charged through a port. And yeah, it's a very sleek design that she got inspired by Braun. What do you think about it?
For me, I think you could definitely see the Braun inspiration where it's minimalistic, and pretty straightforward, and the addition of the tech and everything.
And she has a very muted colorways on it. Nice teal, silver, like a blush and a black. It's a very, very nice keyshot renderings.
All right, next. All right.
Yeah.
All right, next. I picked this one from Charles and Sneakers. So a little background. Okay, no, just mainly. So this here, he just showcases this shoe called the Fresh Foam Gobi, and you get to see his sketches that he did at Sketchbook Pro, and then it goes into kind of showing the prototyping, how he went from the first prototype tape ups and then to the final sample product that came back from wherever they do it, maybe in China, I'm not sure. Then he did a couple call outs for like the material breakdown of what he's using and stuff like that. But a quick side note on this is I posted this because this is like one of the posts or one of the people that I was looking at for inspiration on how to sketch. And he's a very talented designer now. At the time he worked at New Balance, but now he's working at Nike, I believe. And when I was at Pencil, he had like a little lecture there while we were at Pencil, so he was able to talk to us and stuff like that. And he kind of talked about how he was not talented at all at sketching. Like he was pretty bad at it, and how, like we said before, hard work eventually led to beautiful sketches. And so
yes, I firmly believe hard work gives birth to genius.
And that's about it on this. Yeah.
This is this is a very nice execution from the sketch to the actual final product. Nice. The next project, it's from IJDLA. His name is Ivan, and it looks like another minimal inspired product, which is a calculator. He took human factors into consideration. He wanted the buttons to be comfortable for your fingers, and he implemented a curved back for hand placement on the calculator, and you could see that throughout the renderings. And his renderings are very nice. They have such a grainy look on the texture, and then on the back shot you could see like an off. You could He also has pop colors, and you could see an offset of the casing where you could see like a transparent case, and then in the inside it's where it's colored. You see it on the.
Is it really like that?
I don't know, but
I think,
that it feels like an offset to the outside of the casing, and the actual colors in the inside.
all I know is that it's like, like it has a gradient type pop color background, and then he has, or she has like just like a solid black or solid white. So it's pretty cool, has the pop color-ish effect. And I like how it looks, overall. It kind of looks a little bit old-ish in the front side, and then.
Yeah, I just like the gradients. It's not very one colored. When you zoom in, you see like grains of it. I want to know how he did it on Keyshot.
He or she? Oh, it's
It's
he.
a
Yeah,
he.
he. Yeah, I like it. And then I don't know. It's called Hun. So I don't know what that. There probably is a meaning behind it, but.
All right, the next post is it's a chair called Flip Flap by Mii Yamamoto, and he was inspired by origami, and the little post by him saying using a co-molding process, rigid and elastic zones are combined to create a flexible structure that responds naturally to the user's movements. So if you flip through the post, you could see how each section is like it
conforms.
it kind of comforts your back depending how you move on the chair. So
it adjusts according to how you're seated or whatever.
Yeah.
Right. All right. Cool. And then the next one that I picked was the Jordan 34 and these sketches were by Tate. I don't know how to pronounce this name. Curbis, yeah. So, and he's a forward designer at the Jordan brand. Very interesting because this shoe just came out, and then Zion was, I think he was one of the first players to debut it. He went to like a park in New York, and then he like did a couple dunks, and now they're using that as like the photo pictures for like the branding of it. But here, what I have showcased is like the early sketches that he did. And it's kind of cool to see how he did his call out, the thought process, and how he like showcased the material breakdown and everything like that. But overall, if you look at it, you see on the bottom left, there's like a bunch of names there. So I'm sure that's like a call out to like the whole team that worked on it. So that's pretty interesting to see that although it's one shoe and although he sketched it, there's a lot of minds behind the thought process of it. So I just wanted to include that because that's pretty big right now. And that's about it, right?
all right, yep. And if you guys have any posts, just tag us in Creators Blueprint, hashtag us Creators Blueprint, and please let us know what you want us to discuss. Subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on Instagram, listen to us on Spotify and iTunes. Everything, okay. You guys want to drop your IGs?
It doesn't really matter.
Okay. So, all right. Take care, stay golden, no to drugs, do good in school.
That's about it. Peace.
Later.
You didn't say anything?
I said later.
Oh, okay. Good?
Good.